Good day, here are today's top stories from the Pna Headlines. We begin with updates on this Friday from the nation's top office. The Philippines and New Zealand have reaffirmed their strong relationship as President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. and New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon discussed their push for free and fair trade. In a post on Facebook, Marcos says he had a meaningful phone conversation with Luxon regarding developments in the field of trade. They also affirmed their cooperation for the peace and development in the region. Luxon meanwhile took to X or Twitter to describe Marcos as New Zealand's, quote, important partner in Southeast Asia. He says they discussed how their countries can continue to work together to support free and fair trade. During Luxon's visit to the Philippines in April 2024, the two leaders discussed plans to increase trade between the two countries by at least 50% in the next few years. Meanwhile, President Marcos also affirmed and lauded the Philippines and France's ties anchored on their alignment on international law and democratic values. Marcos took note of the shared values of their countries in his meeting with French Minister for Foreign Trade, International Financing, and French nationals abroad Laurent Saint-Martin in Malacanang. Saint-Martin visited the palace to convey to Marcos and Trade Secretary Cristina Roque the gratitude of French President Emmanuel Macron, as well as the warm welcome extended to his delegation. The visit is part of France's broader push to strengthen trade and diplomatic ties in Southeast Asia. The Philippines and France are negotiating the creation of a visiting forces agreement that will strengthen defense and military cooperation. Staying with updates from the palace, President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has vetoed the proposal to grant Filipino citizenship to Chinese entrepreneur Li Duan Wang. Malacanang announced the veto in a text message to palace reporters from Palace Press Officer Claire Castro. House Bill 8839, which seeks the naturalization of Wang, also known as Mark Ong, has already been passed on third and final reading at the Senate. He's tagged as the operator of the Nine Dynasty Junket Group, which has connections with Rivendell, a Philippine offshore gaming operator hub in Pasay involved in illegal activities. Aside from his undisclosed links to Pogos, Senate Deputy Minority Leader Risa Ontiveros cited discrepancies in his personal records. Meanwhile, Marcos also vetoed House Bill 7046, which will revise and correct flaws in the Baguio City Charter. The bill will, however, downgrade Baguio City's status as an independent and highly urbanized local government. The Department of Education has launched its 2025 summer programs to ensure learning recovery among learners in basic education. This as President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. ordered to advance quality education and ensure the well-being of teachers. Education Secretary Sani Angara says the summer programs are designed to help learners overcome challenges and achieve their full potential. Angara also announced that teachers participating in the programs will be granted vacation service credits and professional recognition. The 20-day Bawat Bata Makababasa program will teach reading proficiency among grades 1 to 3 learners. Grade 3 learners who scored low in the comprehensive rapid literacy assessment for end of school year 2024-2025 will undergo the literacy remediation program. Meanwhile, the regional remediation program will provide support for reading and mathematics to learners. Grades 4 to 12 learners with failed subjects will undergo the summer academic remedial program. Lastly, grades 1 to 10 learners may catch up with learning through the 4-week 2025 learning camp, which will be implemented in 10 select schools. Catholics can now comfortably stock up on fish as the Department of Agriculture assures fish prices remain stable days before the Holy Week. DA spokesperson Assistant Secretary Arnel de Mesa says the prevailing price of bangus or milkfish remains at 240 pesos per kilo, while tilapia is at 160 pesos per kilo. On the other hand, the price of galunggong or mackerel scad has been dropping from 300 pesos per kilo last month to the current 240 pesos. De Mesa, however, says there may be a minimal price adjustment during the Holy Week as Catholics refrain from eating meat, especially on Maundy Thursday and Good Friday. The DA assures that the supply of fish remains stable despite the anticipated increase in demand during the Holy Week. This came after the 3-month closed fishing season that banned the catching of sardines, herring and mackerel was lifted in February. A look at business headlines. The Philippines supports the stance of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, to refrain from retaliating against the reciprocal tariffs imposed by the United States. In a virtual meeting on Thursday, the ASEAN Economic Ministers, or AEM, issued a joint statement saying that ASEAN commits to instead formulate a unified regional approach to the issue. The bloc vowed to further strengthen intra-ASEAN trade and investment as they minimize the impact of the tariffs. Trade Secretary Maria Cristina Roque says the ministers agreed to create effective mitigation strategies to protect the interest of member states and maintain investor confidence. She says ASEAN will strengthen engagement and cooperation with the U.S. ASEAN will also explore new agreements to bolster supply chain resilience and expand market access. Meanwhile, the Bureau of Internal Revenue is intensifying its crackdown on vape and tobacco smugglers. The BIR in Pampanga reported that it destroyed 14.3 million packs of illicit cigarettes with unpaid taxes worth 6.3 billion pesos in March 2025. It filed an 8.5 billion peso tax evasion case against Chinese nationals and several corporations linked to illegal cigarette operations in San Simon, Pampanga. Authorities destroyed 3.26 billion pesos worth of smuggled vape products in cooperation with the Bureau of Customs. BIR Commissioner Romeo Lumagi Jr. says they vow to go after these smugglers in line with the Marcos administration's whole-of-government effort to stop the illicit trade and the health dangers posed by unregulated products. And that's the latest and the biggest stories on the PNA headlines. For more news updates, visit our website, pna.gov.ph, our Facebook and X account, Philippine News Agency. The PNA Headlines is also streamed via the Silvisio Facebook page. You may also watch the PNA Headlines through the Philippine News Agency's YouTube account and via the News and Information Bureau website under PNA News. I'm Bench Bondok. This is the PNA Headlines, bringing stories that unite the nation.